The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN Report. Just updating y'all about the situation out in Libya. If you follow me, you know I've been talking about it, but the Libyan National Army, the LNA, which is led by a dual citizen of Libya and the U.S., General Khalifa Haftar, who actually recently met with President El-Sisi of Egypt, actually, galvanized this army to essentially march on the capital of the capital known as Tripoli, in Libya, and they've been warring with the government of National Accord, the GNA, which is actually the government that's backed by the United Nations. They're being accused of trying to stage a military coup. So this is real interesting. The UN is actually warning that this is leading to a humanitarian crisis because 18,000 people have literally been displaced. Now imagine like 1,800 people. Imagine 18 people, and then times that by 1,000. And that's how many motherfuckers is actually moving out of the area as a result. And thousands are actually trapped in the fire. Green War and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now I got to report on this anytime it happens worldwide, because any jeopardization of the freedom of press is essentially crucial, especially over here at BFN. This is what we do, man, journalism, letting y'all know what the fuck is going on. So Omar Shakir is actually a researcher for the Human Rights Watch, and he's actually was over this project out in Israel and Palestine, trying to like see what's going on over there. Well, due to essentially probably the past reports and things that the Human Rights Watch does, which is basically reveal truth, he was actually already had his work visa revoked, but recently has actually been told to leave the country by May 1st. They do not want him in the country, and this has to do with, as they say, because Israel says that he's part of the Boycott Israel movement, but that is not true, according to the Human Rights Watch, and they're doing it just because they advocate truth, essentially. So they're going to take it to the Israeli Supreme Court. We'll see how this pans out. Green Wall and graduation. Go to Bishop Grady laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So over in Colorado, in Denver, actually, 20 school districts were actually shut down because of a woman who, 18-year-old woman who was traveling there and actually was found out to be like infatuated with the Columbine massacre. Now on this 420, actually in a few days, this would be the 20th anniversary of the massacre, where two students from Columbine High actually went into the school and killed 12 people and one teacher. So this woman had everybody in a frenzy to where they shut down school. So that's the type of climate we living in over here in America. This is worse than the bomb threats from when we was in high school. You know what I'm saying? We on a whole nother level of threat. You know what I mean? And apparently she bought a gun and some ammunition, and they've been like, they tightened up security at these schools, and they've just been on the lookout for her. They're actually looking for this woman, so she's on the run. It sounds like she's going crazy. So let's see what happens. Green War and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz has actually been sued for defamation by Virginia. I don't want to mispronounce her last name. It's like it starts with a G or something like that. But one of the accusers of Jeffrey Epstein, who is a billionaire, alleged sex offender, who was actually in 2006 arrested for having sexually abusing and trafficking dozens of underage women in Florida. Now, now this woman in particular says that she actually would go to his New York City mansion, the mansion of Jeffrey Epstein, and this Dershowitz would sometimes go upstairs where he had the underage girls, apparently. So, but the dude actually, when Virginia came out, the dude said that she was lying and that he had never met her. So now he's getting that lawsuit. So we'll see how this pans out. Green War and graduation. Why isn't this smeared over everywhere where R. Kelly is? Let's make sure that happens. This guy has to go. Green War and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report. So over at Rutgers University, there's actually been a little tension between the administration and the school itself, and this had to do with like the contracts. There were sexual harassment situations that weren't necessarily being addressed. All that's been changed and apparently dealt with. The union still has to vote on this, but basically what's been put to the front is that You know, everyone's that the administration's getting a raise. They're closing all gender pay gaps and campus pay gaps because, you know, people on different campuses getting paid for the same duty, different amounts because of the campus that they're on. Also, non-tenure lecturers can actually get up to 7-year contracts too, so it's seen as a big win, but it still has to be voted on, but it's looking like, you know, it's in the green. So, you know, it just lets you know what putting pressure on these motherfuckers to do sometimes. That's how bureaucracy works. Bureaucracy, the people at the top still can't exist without the people at the bottom. You dig? And don't forget it. Green Wall and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady Lay. I know what the fuck going on for this BFN report now. Donald Trump actually has vetoed. He issued his second veto of his presidency yesterday when he vetoed the bill that was passed by Congress, which invoked the War Powers Resolution Act of 1973. This act is designed to keep the president's powers in check, to basically say that it requires congressional approval for a president to put our country into war. Now, this was invoked because we have been selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia has been bombing the fuck out of Yemen. It's caused the world's worst humanitarian crisis ever. You're talking about millions at risk of starving. Over 1 million people actually have the disease cholera, and this is being used as we're basically in a war with Saudi Arabia. So it's a shame that he vetoed it, but it was kind of expected. Green Wall and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady Lay. I know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Yeah, you see a nigga long hair, don't care, you know what I mean? I had to switch it up on y'all motherfuckers, but I'm still gonna keep it a stack with y'all what's going on. Attorney General William Barr, this is the AG that was actually handpicked by Donald Trump himself. He actually issued an order yesterday that showed that has it to where the illegal immigration judges cannot grant a bond. So they can't have, so if you're caught as an illegal alien getting into the country between ports of entry, like basically not at a place that's designated to handle that stuff, not at an official port of entry, you can be held without bond. And people worry that this will set the government up to actually hold illegal immigrants in jail indefinitely. And by the way this administration has been playing around with this illegal immigration stuff, it seems like that's around the pipe. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, actually said they're going to see him in court. The Trump administration, that is. Green Wall and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady Lay. I know what the fuck going on for this BFN report now. Donald Trump, the Trump administration actually is resuming the Remain in Mexico policy that they had put in a few months back, which basically says that migrants who are seeking asylum here in the United States have to remain in Mexico until their papers are processed. These are for the people that are doing it right. Now, unfortunately, this has already affected over 1,100 migrants. So they have these, sometimes families or whatnot, whole families staying in these outdoor, uncomfortable prisons, essentially. And in doing so, this is obviously like stifling the well-being the New World Order, Bishop Grady Lay. I know what the fuck going on for this BFN report now. Donald Trump and the Trump administration, they are actually resuming the Remain in Mexico policy, which has actually been in place for a few months, but was recently barred in some key places by some judges in some key states regarding this immigration policy. Basically says that asylum seekers, people who are trying to cross into the border of entry, we're talking about the people doing it the right way, are actually being told to remain in Mexico until their paperwork is processed. And this is unfortunate because it's keeping, so far there are 1,100 migrants that have been turned away from coming through ports of entry at the border until their paperwork is processed. And they're being held in these outdoor detention centers at times or whatever, very uncomfortable positions. I mean, it's like it's like Martin Lawrence said in Blue Street, nobody wants to go to jail in Mexico. And nevertheless, this is being looked at as is this even legal? Are we legally allowed to do that? It definitely goes against the values of the country, but what the fuck does the Trump administration care about that? Green Wall graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady Lay. I know what the fuck going on for this BFN report now. Yesterday, over 200 climate activists were actually arrested in London. They were actually protesting in central London We're talking about bridges and roadways being shut down, causing a lot of ruckus. So 200 plus people, that's a lot of arrests. That's a lot of activism. You dig? Now these activists were linked to an organization called Extinction Rebellion, and which I think the name is pretty self-explanatory. And now this organization actually had climate activists over in the U.S. that were also protesting the same thing in Washington, D.C. They were actually posted out in front of the Republican National Committee headquarters in D.C. and I believe 8 people were arrested. Now, over in London, they were protesting for putting pressure on government to actually reduce carbon emissions to 0 by 2025, similar to the New Green Deal in the U.S. I wonder if that's what they were talking about over in D.C., but, just know the pressure is there. Shout out to everybody that's back in the New Green Deal, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Salute to her. Green War and graduation. The new world order, Bishop Grady, let y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, over in Paris, France, a lot of people heard about the Notre Dame Cathedral actually being burnt to the ground. This was my face when I heard it. Because I don't give a fuck. Who cares about this cathedral? But now I give even less of a fuck since I've seen like some of the monuments that actually are attached to or surrounding this cathedral. You're talking about like demonic spirits, and I saw one situation where it looked like 2 devil gargoyles trying to rape like one of them baby angels or some shit. Like, what kind of incestuous debauchery y'all got going on over there in Europe? We know that shit don't end. Like, let's keep it a stack. But I'm gonna be nice on this one. Just noting this because people have already raised almost $1 billion to put towards rebuilding this cathedral, which the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, has already vowed to do. Green War and graduation. The new world order, Bishop Grady, letting you know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. The saga continues over there in Sudan, where I told y'all that the Transitional Military Council was put into place after basically months of protests that came to a clash where the civilians were at the capital of Khartoum protesting, having sit-ins, and the military came assisting them, all trying to get the president Omar al-Bashir dethroned, essentially, and they successfully did so. I mean, the military had put him on house arrest. They had established a transitional military council that was supposed to rule for a couple years until they figured out a ruling situation. The president, in the meantime, has been actually placed in a maximum security prison. But the civilians were not having that transitional military council, so the head of the military actually has stepped down from that position, and now the African Union is saying that they have up till April 30th to come up with a civilian rule plan, or if they're going to take other measures. So we'll see how this pans out. Does the African Union even have weaponry? Green War and graduate. We'll go to Bishop Grady, let y'all know what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, keep this in mind because this is somebody that Trump highly reveres, specifically for this situation. Now, the president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, has actually been allowed by the lawmakers over there to stay in power until 2030. He is in his current second presidential term, and that is supposed to last until 2022. But the lawmakers actually voted on a measure that would extend his power to 2030. So, talking about 4 terms, and a lot of people are wondering that this will lead to him and his military to have like an authoritarian reach. Duh. But basically, this is looked at as highly problematic since he's already, since coming into power, jailed tens of thousands of people, and he's in turn letting them like deal with like military prosecutors. So essentially, they're just like up against, the civilians are up against they're up against an authoritarian rule. So Green War and graduate.